Hello again, everyone. It's the middle of August, and you know what that means. Back to school time. Yes, it is time to stock up on all the pens and pencils and notebooks and cartoon character folders of your dreams. But because I teach college and not elementary school, I also want my students to think about the ways that they're going to use technology this year to help them meet their educational goals. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I use my iPad in the college classroom. And even though I'm a professor, I think that my recommendations are equally relevant to instructors and students and pretty much anyone who just wants their iPad to be as useful for work as it is for fun. I think it's important to note before I get started that initially I was a huge skeptic about the usefulness of the iPad. I mean, I'm a devoted Linux user, I'm a big believer in free and open source software. I don't even have an iPod. And if you'd told me before I came to work at Hood College a couple of years ago that I'd be sitting here making a video talking about how to use the iPad in college, I probably would have just laughed. But for the past 2 years, Hood has been running an iPad pilot program, and I decided I wanted to go ahead and give it a try. This year, all of our undergraduate students are going to have iPads, and I want to be sure that they get the most out of them that they can, and not just use them for like Facebook and Candy Crush. If you're curious about all the different apps that I think are useful for college students and faculty, I have a list on my website. But for now, let's just get right down to some info. My first tip for getting the most out of your iPad is organization. Take the apps that you use most frequently and put them in the dock along the bottom. Obviously, I use my email quite often, and I have it linked not just to my college email account, but also to several other accounts that I use on a regular basis. And of course, I use my iPad for web browsing. Though I've tried a lot of different web browsers out, I tend to find that the native browser Safari just seems to work the best for me. Another app that I use a lot and I recommend for all college students is to make the most out of your calendar. Your iPad has a great calendar already built in, and you can link it with your Facebook so that you never forget anybody's birthdays, but you can also go ahead and put in your class schedule. So for me, you can see I have English 222 that meets on Mondays and Wednesdays from 11:30 to 12:45. This is a great way to be sure that you never miss class. You can even set it up to remind you to be sure that you leave on time. Another important tip that I have in terms of organization is to use folders. This allows you to have lots of apps in one place without cluttering up your home screen with tons and tons of icons. Now you probably already know how to do this, but just in case you don't, let me show you. You basically just hold down an icon until it starts to wiggle, and then drag it onto another icon. Shazam, you have a folder, and you can keep things organized in any way you want. You can also rename the folder and call it, say, Notes. That's it, you're all done, and when you're finished, press the home button, and then everything will stop wiggling. So now that we've got organization covered, let's move on to talking about a few apps. Absolutely the number one app that I think everyone should install on their iPad is Dropbox. Dropbox allows you to have access to all of your files. You can sync it across your laptop, your smartphone, and your iPad. As you can see here, I've got a Chaucer syllabus that's all ready to roll for this semester. If you don't use Dropbox yet, go ahead and get started with it. There is absolutely no reason not to, and you will never ever lose a file again. I have a couple of different note-taking apps up at the top, and I really recommend Evernote. It's a lot more robust than the sort of standard legal pad thing that you have. You can organize all of your notes. You can have different notebooks, and you can sync them up to an Evernote on your computer, or if you use Google Chrome or anything else. So that allows you to have access to your notes at all times. Something every student has to do is work with PDF files. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of ways to do that. My number one recommended app for working with PDF files is Goodreader. Now, I don't recommend a lot of paid apps, but Goodreader, in my opinion, is really worth the $4.99 that it costs. It allows you to do an awful lot with a PDF file. You can highlight, you can take notes, you can do all kinds of different things so that you have your comments saved for later. It has a bookmark function so that you can go through and look at all of your notes and highlights at once. But if what you really need is a free PDF reader that allows you some minimal kind of interactions with your files, then you really can't do better than the Adobe Reader that's available for iPad. It still allows you to comment, highlight, and make notes for yourself, and it does an awful lot for a free app, so I really do recommend that as well. Another thing everyone's got to do in college is give a presentation. Having Keynote, which is my favorite of the Apple iWork apps, is going to make your life a little easier. It allows you to put together presentations relatively quickly. This is one that I assembled for my British Lit class in about 5 minutes that helped me teach alliteration. And you end up with a great looking presentation, and since some people are stressed out quite a bit by presenting anyway, it's probably best to make the technological end of it as easy as possible. You can also use your iPad as a textbook. There's lots of options for doing this, but my favorite e-reading app is definitely Kindle. Kindle has a lot of really great features. You can obviously highlight just by dragging your finger across the text. You can also have notes that, just like in Goodreader, you can pull up all of your notes and questions simultaneously. And you can also, if you want to look up a challenging word, like let's look at prosaic. Why look, there's the dictionary definition right down here. And if you want a little bit more information, as long as you're online, you can look it up on Google or Wikipedia. Obviously, those are just a few of the apps that I use on a regular basis. I really like to listen to music while I work, so I'm usually connected to Pandora or another internet radio station when I'm on my iPad. I also do a lot of photo and video work in my classes, and so I use apps like PhotoWall to create influence maps, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in my next video. I also encourage my students to use the iPad's camera to take photographs of chalkboards at the end of class. That way you have a great record of what we talked about in class that day. I also think the iPad is great for when you have a video to watch for class, because you can watch it on Netflix or on Amazon Instant Video, and it's easy to take a screenshot of what you're watching. So if there's a scene that you want to discuss in class, all you have to do is pull up the video and press both the buttons on the iPad, and you get an instant picture of whatever is on your screen at the time. I also use iMovie to make and edit videos, just like the one you're watching now. So there you have it, a really quick introduction to some of the things that I love about using the iPad in my classes. Stay tuned for more how-to videos coming up soon.